Want to fight in mixed martial arts but not get punched in the head? Well, this might be for you.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is your main event.
Live from HBF Stadium Festival Hall. Melbourne Pavilion. Not even backstage, we're literally outside.
Was that the best fight card in Australian MMA history?
Call me crazy, but make sure you call me when I'm right.
Be good if the Aussie MMA Instagram page would give us a bit of glow up because we're killing it.
Welcome to the Australian MMA podcast. My name is Mitch Tinley and today's guest is Denis Kelly. Now, he's had close to 20 mixed martial arts fights plus a plethora of other combat sports. He's coached the likes of soon-to-be great Annie Thatcher. He runs DK MMA and he runs Bushido MMA, which is basically like an amateur sort of competition, which has sort of a modified rule set. So if you want to do sort of mixed martial arts, they've just transitioned into a cage, but there's like no head strikes, and it's all like that sort of opening the door if you're heading into the world of wanting to be a fighter or just test yourself without getting the LCPE. So Denis joins us to chat about that, why he thinks it's important, sort of, and why he thinks it's sort of something to get behind. So Denis Kelly, he's been around the sport for a very long time. Like we said, he's coaching some up-and-comers and he's already had a hand in making some Australian MMA stars. And he's here to talk about Bushido, which is November 16th, basically in the afternoon. And then you can go attend that and then head on over and check out Demolition Fight Series on November 16 in the evening. So it'll be a fun-filled day of mixed martial arts in Victoria. So, ladies and gentlemen, oh, wait. We're going to hear from our new sponsor, and also head on over to ma1combat.com.au and you can buy my Australian MMA t-shirts. Do it. Then we're going to hear from our sponsor at Vex, and then on the other side, Denis Kelly. PRP Global and Vex have joined forces, so keep an eye out. Launching mid-November, they've got a new Vex website and new MMA fightwear range releasing shortly. Vex, designed for combat and worn by the best in Australia. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the show, Mr. Denis Kelly. Welcome.
Hi, Mitchell. Thanks for having me on.
Mate, it's an absolute pleasure. Bushido, mate, first of all, where did it start?
How it started, basically started doing the first Bushido event. I think it was might have been 2018, something like that. And I basically just copied the idea of a lot of the amateur events that I used to fight on back in the UK. So back in the UK, we had an event called KSBO, it was actually organized by Michael Bisping's coach. So I had my first, and actually even before that, there was another one, which was Pancrase, Amateur Pancrase, which was organized by my old coach. So yeah, there was a lot of events like that back over there. And then I came to Australia, and then after a few years when I started training fighters, there wasn't really anything similar to that over here. And then we would bring, when I would train fighters, we would kind of bring them along to kickboxing shows, and then sometimes there would be amateur MMA fights, but the rules would be, there was no like kind of agreed upon rule set. So then eventually after a few years of that, I just decided, I'm going to try to run my own event and basically, make it a good entry kind of pathway for fighters that want to get into MMA.
How come you went that way and you didn't go like the professional sort of, I want to be the number one promotion in Australia? Why did you happen to go the more amateur way?
Well, actually, I mean, we did, after running a few of the Bushido amateur events, then we did run a few Bushido fight nights as well, which was during the
I think you had Khan Offley in one of those, didn't you?
No, we didn't have Khan Offley. We had a few of the older guys, like quite a few of the guys that are doing well now, like Dylan Lahari.
Yeah,
he fought on
that's
it a few
it.
times,
Yep.
and he actually, I'm pretty sure he would have fought on the other Bushido amateur comps as well before then. Yeah, so we had like quite a few, people that have gone on to do pretty well after that. But yeah, like I wasn't really, I wasn't keen on putting on a big show. And then I found out when I did try to do a few bigger shows, it is very time consuming. So yeah, I'm mostly focused on coaching and doing my own training, and then not much extra time to do all that kind of stuff.
What are the main sort of rule concepts that you've decided on?
Yeah, so with our rule set, the main thing is we just got no strikes to the head. So you can, it's full contact, you can strike to the body and kick to the legs, but just no strikes to the head. So that's, and then apart from that, pretty similar to standard MMA, takedowns, submissions, everything's kind of the same. When I first introduced the idea of no strikes to the head, I got a bit of blowback from other trainers who were saying like, my guys can't fight, they can't fight on that show because they need to be able to hit guys in the head.
Mm.
And I was like, I mean, you there's already a lot of different opportunities to throw punches or kicks to the head. You can fight kickboxing, you can
Mm.
fight boxing. If you're a young up and coming fighter, you will get those opportunities, but there isn't that many opportunities to test your grappling against someone who's trying to strike you. So it kind of fills that gap for the beginners.
Is that why you kind of took away the strikes to the head?
Yeah, yeah, because I mean the other thing is sometimes like I just think when you've got young, like maybe not even young, but like fighters who are quite early in the career, it takes a while to develop.
Mm.
And they could actually be quite good if they had a few more years, but then they jump in, they have their first fight, they get like knocked out because someone just closes their eyes and swings a big punch, and it's a huge setback for them. Whereas like you don't really have that problem with other combat sports like boxing. It
Mm.
tends to be like it's a little bit, there are a lot of hit each other in the head, but it's a little bit safer because they're wearing headgear. They've got bigger gloves. If you get rocked with a punch, you get time to recover and then go
Mm.
again. So whereas MMA is pretty unforgiving. So yeah, I just find it safer to do it with no headshots, and then maybe once you've had, 3 or 4 fights under the no headshots rules, then progress onto fighting with headshots.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Do you have those in your events? Like, is there progressions into the rules, or is it kind of a blanket rule set?
Nah, nah, it's just all the same rules. It's all no headshots. And then basically, I mean, the way it's been working so far is a lot of the people who they've had a few wins on our event, and then they go on and fight in demolition and have like
Mm.
the standard rules under demolition.
Well, what's your goal with the whole promotion then?
Well, I mean, like when I first started there wasn't really too much of a goal. I just saw like I'm training fighters myself and there wasn't many opportunities for them to get experience. So that was the main thing really is just like have another, I suppose like have another sort of tier to, people fight on no headshots events, then they fight on amateur MMA such as like demolition or what used to be Path to Hex or one of those things, and then work up to pro fights after that, just to kind of create a better, suppose a better like pathway, I suppose.
Now, you've had like a little bit of a career yourself. Is this kind of something that you found out along the way that you thought was quite necessary?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, like as I said, I had a lot of fights under these kind of rules way back at the start. And I find it very useful because, you basically get that time of getting that experience. And then when you do step up to fight under, like I fought under a whole bunch of different rule sets because that was like mid 2000s,
Mm.
so the sport wasn't really like properly established, you could say back then, so that you would turn up at a show and you didn't really know what the rules were going to be until you had a rules meeting before. But yeah, definitely feel like the more experience you can get without copping too much abuse, then it's going to help you in the long run.
Do you think it maybe teaches them to get too comfortable with thinking maybe they can strike, but they haven't kind of done headshots yet? So then when they do bring in headshots, it kind of sets them back a bit. Have you ever noticed any of that?
Not really, to be honest. I mean, that's one of the things people often, at the beginning they would often say that like, people will get too comfortable
Mm.
playing under those rules, and then when they have a real fight, they won't be able to adapt to it. But I mean, to be honest, I don't really think like I don't see any sense in that argument because you could say for the same reason, like if wrestlers spend their whole life wrestling without getting punched in the head, then they'll won't be able to fight in MMA as well, where obviously that's not the case. Like
Yeah.
it's not difficult once you figure out that okay, today I'm going to be fighting on a different rule set. I'm going to keep my hands up
Mm.
and yeah.
No, I think there's a valid point there because I mean, how many people throw unpadded elbows in training?
Yeah, yeah.
None, but you gotta deal with that in a fight. So you got to kind of figure it out. What's been the biggest hurdle for you when running this promotion?
Well, I mean, there hasn't been too many problems to be honest. It's usually all run pretty smoothly right from the start. You know, got like a lot of, you know, most of the local gyms are always keen to get their guys on because they've seen the benefit of it. They bring them down, get a bit of experience, and even they see that like, you know, sometimes people are looking good in the gym, but then when they go and actually compete, they crack under the pressure. So they'll kind of know who's
Mm,
worth putting that extra effort into as well. I'd say in terms of the biggest hurdles, probably you know, I started running this probably the year before the pandemic. So then there was a lot of events where we had it all scheduled to run, and then Victoria went into a lockdown a few weeks before, so we had to cancel it and reschedule it. And then, you know, there was a lot of that. But yeah, pretty much since that was finished, then it's all been pretty smooth. So yeah.
how's the government been for you? Have they been easy to deal with?
Yeah, I mean, they didn't. I mean, actually, just recently, the last event that I did was let's see, when was that? Like about 4 weeks ago. So we just got permission to hold the events in the cage, which makes life a lot easier because
Mm,
previously we used to have them on the open matted area, which was still it was still pretty good. But we just had you've always got the problem where people will move out of the area, then you have to reset them.
mm.
So on the last event, the combat sports board gave us the go ahead to hold the matches in the cage, and then that yeah, that just makes it run a lot more smoothly, avoids the resets, gets the matches you know, taking along a lot
Mm.
faster. So that was heaps better.
Did you like just from like a martial arts perspective, did you like the open area for the fight?
Yeah, we sort of did. Like, I think it did look a little bit more like, you know, a traditional kind of
Mm,
martial arts event. And also, I felt that, you know, with the first few events, it was better to do it like that because it looks a little bit intimidating
mm.
having, you know, like if you're
Yeah.
a guy who's only been training for like, you know, 12 months or whatever, then you're going to turn up on Saturday and you're going to step into a cage. And then yeah, so that it just had a different sort of feel to it. But yeah, in terms of the practical side of it, having it in the cage is definitely yeah, a lot easier. Yeah. And then also I just feel like probably since then, since the times that we started doing it, there's been a lot more grappling events in the cage, and there's been a lot more like it's become almost like a lot more acceptable. Rather than, you know, it used to be fighting in the cage was like barbaric, whereas now it's like everybody's fighting in cages these days, so it doesn't seem like a big deal.
Yeah. Have you thought about like, do you like the karate combat, like the pit sort of style, or?
I don't know now. I mean, I think for us, it probably wouldn't make that much sense because, yeah, I mean, before moving it fully into the cage, we had one cage wall and one padded wall, so it was kind of enclosed on two sides, for a while. But I mean, I think most of the people who are competing in our event, they're eventually planning to, you know, or at least a
Mm.
lot of them will be planning to fight in MMA. So, you know, that's one of the benefits. Get used to this kind of fighting in this environment. So having extra different fancy environments probably wouldn't help too much.
And has anyone kind of given you feedback where you've gone, oh shit, yeah, that's a good idea, and then you've implemented it?
Um, I don't know, to be honest. Yeah, I mean, sometimes people do, and then you try things and it doesn't quite work out and stuff as well. Yeah, so there's a lot of learning, you know, that
Mm.
goes along the way. Like even stuff like we used to make it a tournament, and then it just got a lot of work trying to organize a tournament
Mm.
because one person would have their first fight and then they'd win it, but they'd get slightly injured. They wouldn't want to do their second fight. And then we changed it to single fights. So, there's a lot of stuff that you kind of learn along the way that makes it run a bit more smoothly.
And what's kind of been like the real highlight for you in its existence?
I don't know. I'd say, it's probably just been good to be able to see some of the guys who came in and had their first fights. And then they've gone on to, fight and do well in the local scene as well. So, I mean, it's been a relatively short time as well, but it's good to be able to have that kind of contribution to the local scene. And also, I mean, when I first came up with the idea of it, I think it was kind of, in some ways, I wanted it to be a good pathway for people who want to fight and compete, but then also just maybe there's other people who just done like some type of martial art for the whole life, or maybe they've done jujitsu and they don't really want to fight, have a proper MMA fight, but they want to have that one experience of going in and testing their skills against somebody else, or someone that's done like karate and they want to jump in and have one modified MMA match. So it's just even good to see those kind of people getting in there and having a go as well.
So tell us about this upcoming event.
Okay, so yeah, the next one is coming up on the 16th of November, which is actually the same day as Demolition, but we're having ours is always like daytime event, and then we'll be going to Demolition after that because I've got
Cool.
one of the guys fighting on there. But yeah, so Saturday, 16th of November, we always just do, so people just sign up beforehand, and then we try to do the matchmaking before that, and then we get the weigh-ins at 11 o'clock, and then we do like a quick rules meeting, and then we try to get the matches started 12 o'clock, and then just go through one after another, and then if things go well, we're usually out of there by about 4 p.m. So yeah, we try to avoid having people hanging around for too long.
The same day weigh-in.
Yeah, so basically what happens is we just when people sign up, they just say what their weight is on their entry form, and then we just do like a quick weigh in, and then obviously if someone is way off what they said they're going to be 70 and they're 90 kilos, then we'll have to put them with someone else. But most of the time, the weigh-ins aren't that much of a big deal because no one's really going to be. Everybody understands that they're going to be fighting maybe 1 hour after they weigh in, so no one's
Yeah.
going to cut weight. And then yeah, it all tends to work pretty well, and it just gives the fighters that little bit of experience of, all right, you've agreed to a certain weight, so you got to be this weight on the day as well. Just
Do
an
you,
extra part of it.
do you reckon that would work in professional MMA?
I mean, I've always thought that that's what should happen, but I think it would cause a lot of problems because you obviously you've met a lot of fighters, and a lot of them like will say one thing and then it'll turn out that that's not quite true. So maybe a lot of them will say they're going to be 77 kilos and then they'll turn up and they'll be like 88 kilos. So yeah, I mean, I think it could cause problems for big events, but I mean, yeah, I've always thought they should try to do that anyway, and then it would probably take a few years of like, having some fights falling through, but then maybe eventually everybody would get the hang of it.
Can people like do you want a big crowd to come down, or what's kind of
Nah, I mean, not really. Like our venue isn't very big, so yeah, we do sell spectator tickets as well, but in general, it's like each person who fights, they might bring along like maybe one or two people from their gym or their friends and family to come along and watch. So it's not a it's not a big spectator event. It's more just like it's basically for the fighters and coaches and teams just to get that extra experience.
and do you want it to grow to a big level, or
Um, I mean, probably not, to be honest. Like I did think about it at some stages, and then we did the Bushido fight nights as I mentioned earlier, and that was like a bit of a bigger project. But I would just say like at this stage in my life, I'm probably not gonna put too like I think we've got these events running pretty smoothly now, and it's like it's kind of ticking over. The extra effort required to like rent out a sports center and do all that kind of stuff is just gonna be it's not really necessary. And I just think that MMA is like a weird sort of sport as well, where even though it is growing and it's getting more popular all the time, it's more of a spectator thing than a actual the amount of people who are actually willing to step in and compete is still pretty small, really. Like I think, the general public wouldn't believe how few fighters there actually are. I mean, there's a lot of people who are training and who are like potentially willing to fight, but as it comes closer to the time, you get injuries, you get people changing their mind and stuff like that. So yeah, I don't really think there's that much of a market for it.
And would you have done anything differently in your MMA career?
In my MMA career, I don't like it's a tough one to be honest because like I've had a lot of fight experience. Like I had 16 pro fights, had a whole bunch of amateur fights before then, and I competed in, a lot of other combat sports as well. But I never actually looked at it as a career. It was more like just a hobby because I didn't at that stage, the sport probably wasn't developed enough where you could think about quitting your job and, becoming a UFC fighter or something. It was more just like I'd always done martial arts training and combat sports, and I just wanted to like take opportunities to test myself. So yeah, I never really thought about it that much as a career. And then kind of as it came closer to the end, that's when it started to, did start to look like a career, but it's kind of, yeah, I'm kind of happy with the way I got the experience from it, learned a lot of stuff that I can pass on to the next generation. So I'm quite happy with that.
Do you have any like up and coming prodigies?
Yeah, I mean, just recently I opened my own gym, which is DK MMA. So we've just been up and running for 3 months, and that's where the next Bushido event is going to be held. So we've got like quite a few young up and coming. Like it'll probably take a year or two before we get them fighting on like the bigger shows. But yeah, I'm quite excited about the next generation coming along. And then I know you've spoken to Annie Thatcher,
Yeah.
who's yeah, been on there quite a few times. So she'll be coming back to Melbourne in a couple of weeks to fight on Hex. So I'll be helping out with that as well. So still expecting big things from her.
That's good. And what was the highlight of your MMA career?
Um, I don't like. I think I had probably my last fight. I won a Victorian state title against Nick Patterson.
Hmm.
Who's yeah, he's pretty well known in the local scene. But yeah, like I just think I had a lot of, there weren't like, big events, but like I went to Italy, had a nice fight over there, won by submission. There was just like as I said, I didn't really look at it so much as a career, but just as a way to test my skills. So when I look back at it now, I always just think like it was more just of an adventure, and yeah, like I feel lucky that I was able to get all that experience without really taking too much damage along the way as well.
Awesome. All right. Well, Mr. Dennis Kelly, thank you so much for taking the time. Don't be a stranger next time. Feel free to jump on and we can chat about the upcoming events. What you're doing for the sport is really good. Like you said, it's a really good bridging program, or just for people that kind of want to test their skills and not get punched in the head. So
Yeah, yeah,
you're doing
that's good.
at least medicine a very good favor there. So
Yeah.
thank
All
you.
right. Thanks, Mitchell. Thanks for having me on.
See you later, legend.